Hey, Global Village. Okay, just a quick one here. I was watching a recent video by Professor Dave where he performs another takedown on Avi Loeb. Um, and I will link to the video because there's only a very small piece of it I wanted to comment on because I think it is very demonstrative of a technique that grifters often use. And Dave didn't actually pick up or point this particular thing out. So I thought I'd just add my little 2 cents here. As I said, I will include a link to his full video. So my focus will just be on a very small piece. So it'll just go ahead and play this.
In other words, mainstream scientists dismiss the findings while claiming that abiotic processes could account for the data.
Right, so this is in discussion or reference to whether there's actually life on Mars. And Avi Loeb is talking about how mainstream scientists, in inverted commas, have dismissed the particular data here because of the fact that it could be produced by abiogenesis. In other words, inorganic processes could result in that particular finding. Now, the only thing I wanted to point out is that he used the term mainstream scientists and in a pejorative way. And I thought that was very interesting. It's actually a tell because, except in a very sort of loose colloquial use of the term, there actually is no such thing as a mainstream scientist. What there is scientific consensus. So if you were to rewind that and replace the phrase mainstream scientists with scientific consensus, because that's what he really means, all of a sudden he would sound a lot less compelling. And it can be treated as a form of dog whistle to the particular audience that he's targeting, which is to say those of a conspiratorial mindset, because if you immediately sort of place scientific consensus as belonging to those darn mainstream scientists, i.e. the people that you just don't want to believe in because they belong to some giant secretive cabal, which is absurd, by the way, because in fact mainstream scientists in the US are taking an absolute beating at the hands of the Trump administration. Science in the US has never been in worse shape than it is right now. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because I think it is little things like that which are so easy to miss and which yet tell us so much about who that person is and the way they are using language deceptively to present their argument and their position. But as always, Professor Dave's video is very comprehensive, and so I'm not going to try and relitigate anything he actually has in the video. If you want to hear his takedown on Avi Loeb, then it will be in the link. One thing I will say is that people often, when they attack Professor Dave, almost universally, one of the things they will say is, oh, he's got the name Professor in his video, in his YouTube channel, but he's not actually a professor. And what they're doing there is they're constructing a straw man. If this really is the best argument they can come up with as to why Professor Dave, in inverted commas, shouldn't be listened to and is not, his opinion should be disregarded, then they are presenting a very weak case for themselves. They need to, if they go into the body of what he's actually saying and dispute that, argue against the actual points being made, then, they're worth listening to. But if they're just going to attack Professor Dave on the construction of a straw man, and a pretty weak one at that, then it's not a good sign that they have a strong case against him. Is he a professor in the strict sense of the word, no, he's not. Obviously, it's a branding, a form of identification that makes him stand out in YouTube. It's a catchy phrase, Professor Dave. And certainly he has been an educator long before he was engaged in YouTube. He's, in fact, incredibly honest about who he is, what he does now. YouTube is how he earns a living, and he's not lying about that. The fact that he actually earns money in YouTube and is completely open about that fact does not somehow diminish the arguments he's making. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. I just thought this was a point I felt was worth making. Anyway, Bendy out.